I was literally completely healed. I had depth perception suddenly. I was doing handstand, like it was overnight. It was crazy. But then you're also very much in tune with everything. And so a lot of the messages I got were not to be shared with the public quite yet.
Yeah.
But the philosophy for me was then the next few days, I was meant to literally just ground and sit in the grass with nature as much as possible. The connectivity that I had to animals was crazy. Um, yeah. And and that's when I was like, okay, I need to share these gifts with the world because we spent
Mhm.
my life savings trying to find these answers, going
Well,
in
trying to
every
heal yourself. I mean, who wouldn't do that,
right.
right? Because
Hello, my loves. This is Johanna Burkhardt. I am a multidimensional channel, teacher, healer, and author. And I am obsessed with all things metaphysical, esoteric, galactic, and of course, the healing journey. And I'm here to share my stories, my wisdom, and my teachings about being human in the illusion that we call reality. Welcome to Cosmic Blonde.
hello, my loves. In today's episode, I am super excited. We're going to be talking about frequency, using frequency to heal, frequency machines. You cannot believe how many clients have been coming to me recently asking me questions about frequency machines like the Rife and the Miracle and these other machines. And while I use frequency to heal, I don't use the machine. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I immediately knew who would and who also uses frequency to heal and who also happens to be a friend of mine and who has a killer story, like unbelievable story, I should say, of how this all came about for her. So I'm so excited to have the mystical mindset, Kristine Freeland in the house. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
And so her and I met through another coach in 2020. Yeah, it was 2020.
It was, wasn't
I
it?
know. It's been 4 years. And the funny thing was, is that it was my birthday trip. We went to a girls' trip in Florida. And, you know, something happens for me every year around my birthday. I get really down. I don't know why. It happens for a lot of people. And I just wasn't feeling that great. And like, she didn't really know me. And she just came in, she started taking care of me. She put her little portable frequency machine on me. And like, she was just like the kindest, loving soul, and she was such a fun time. And I don't know, we just that was like the best thing that ever came out of that coaching experience for me was the friendships that I had, especially with her. So Kristine, will you please share your story of what happened to you that led to your awakening and for all of this magic to unfold that you now do for other people?
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. I'll try and keep it short. So if you have questions, feel free to not stand out because I'll talk forever. So I believe it was 2015. I was quote unquote happily married, great job, had just been promoted to an amazing opportunity, but I had many limiting beliefs and I was definitely not in alignment with my spiritual path, just in a nutshell. So I'm driving home from work and it's raining, and this girl that's coming head on traffic loses control of her truck. And I'm the lucky one that gets to stop her. So I wake up in this car, someone's knocking on the windshield. I can't figure out when I put curtains in my car because the airbags had gone off, but my brain was not in the right
Didn't
space
compute
to
that that's what it was.
at all. And it was just a wild ride from there. I refused medical service. You see all of these different car accidents and horrible rollovers on movies and they walk away, right? So I expected to go back to work the next day. Everything's going to be fine. No, no. About 1 to 2 days later, I couldn't understand English language. Everyone sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher. I couldn't lift my head. My cervical spine had been knocked backwards. And I think it's for like every millimeter that it's knocked backwards, it's like an extra 10 pounds. So I literally physically could not lift my head. And from there, I had to have Western medicine fail me in many ways. And luckily, my husband at the time, he's not my ex-husband, we're still friends. Um, his mom was very much into energy healing. She was a Reiki master, healing touch certified, amazing woman. So I'd already kind of started to dabble in what we'll call frequency healing.
Hmm.
And that's really what saved my life. was I was told I was never going to heal. I was told I was never going to work again. And we wanted a divorce at that point. Right. So now I'm completely reliant on this man, and amazing man. But yeah, I had to start getting into it. And it started baby steps, acupuncture, right? Um, all of these things, and yoga and meditation. And I started to find that particular frequencies were like a hug to my brain. And that's when I started down the binaural beats path. That's when I started with singing bowls and a chakra overtone drum, one of my favorite things in the world.
Oh, I've never heard of that one.
Oh my gosh, I should go grab it.
I
It's
love drums.
phenomenal. This one's made in Israel. I'm going to go off on a baby tangent if that's okay. Right.
Yeah.
Hidai Lieberman, I believe, is one of the creators of it. And I'm pretty sure they're still made to order. And so these are actually attuned to the chakra system instead of musical notes, which is just roughly about an 8 hertz difference. And so now they're really working with the chakras, the energy centers, the meridians, whatever you want to call it, and the particular organs in the body that house unprocessed emotion. And that was the game changer for me. Was
Oh
being
my gosh.
able to identify these, and you're sensitive like me, right?
Yeah,
I'm sure many of your
absolutely.
listeners are too. So you start to feel these resonate within the body, right? Almost like a rife machine, right?
Yeah.
That's what a rife machine is doing, is it's going into a particular resonance to help us kind of reset these things. And it was a game changer. And then I was introduced to the miracle. Okay, I'm jumping way, way ahead. It took about 3 years for me to finally find the right combo for me and literally miraculously heal. It was like that.
How
And
long did you not be able to speak the English language? Like, that's crazy. I didn't know. I know I've heard your story, but I don't remember you ever saying you walked away and refused medical treatment.
I did.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was. But adrenaline is insane.
Yeah.
You think everything's fine. We were trying to push my car off to the side. Like,
OMG,
I
girl.
called my husband at the time, and you're off to the side of the road. The Bluetooth is hooked up, right? So number one, he can't hear me. And then number two, I finally get a hold of him. And well, yeah, and I was like, I've been in an accident. Come pick me up. And then I hung up. We didn't have location services. So he's driving around like a crazy man trying to find me, right? Because I'm now not answering. I'm talking with the police. I'm doing this and doing that. But yeah, I refused medical treatment. And it wasn't until the police and everyone left that we were on the side of the road. I remember starting to dry heave, and that's when the pain started to kick in, right? That's when everything. So I went home, had a giant Epsom salt bath. Again, I'm thinking I'm going to be completely fine. They're like, you're not
Right.
going to be fine. Works like you're not going to be fine. Take some time, right? Yeah. And then went to the doctor. But I was able to speak. Oh, okay. I dealt with something called Broca's aphasia. And Broca's aphasia is where you're utilizing the wrong word, thinking you're saying the right thing. So if you and I were at the beach and there was a lighthouse, and I'm like, look at the beautiful elephant. I'm talking about the lighthouse, but I'm using the word
Yeah.
elephant, and you have no awareness of this.
You have no idea that you're saying elephant instead of lighthouse. Oh my God.
Yeah. And so you start to now the subconscious, unconscious programming is kicking in, and now you're scared to talk, right?
Yeah.
And the processing is so much slower. So you go to the doctor, and you know how doctors are. They're like, what is it? What do you need? Let's go.
Mhm.
Right. You had 5 minutes. And if I couldn't create those sentences, I wasn't getting the healing that I needed. But the
Right.
kicker was I would understand you, and all of a sudden, blah, 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 that's all I'd hear. And so
So
I would,
that when I would speak to you, like if someone speaks to you, that's what it would translate. Literally like the wah 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 from Charlie Brown.
yes,
Oh my God.
exactly. Yeah. And the first time it happened was when I was getting x-rays. And I remember they put the x-rays up, and B was the assistant. And she said, oh, that's not good. And then she turned to me, and it was wah, 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 and I just burst into tears. Because how do you explain to someone like, I can't understand you? And they're not going, oh, it's because I'm talking doctor speak. No, I literally can't understand a word you're saying.
Yeah.
Right. And so it seemed to come with blood pressure. It seemed to come with these fears or these emotions that would kick in, which again, we're going into frequency, right? When you're dropping into those lower frequencies, yeah, things start cutting off. So, okay, I've gone off on 8 million tangents, but yeah.
So you legit had a traumatic brain injury. Like this damaged your brain.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So when did you have your awakening? Because I feel like I remember you saying something about you having a mass awakening in this healing process.
That was probably 2017.
Okay.
So I was
A
in
few years
resistance
in.
well over a year. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then started going into things like Spring Forest Qigong, started going to certifications and things like that. Found an amazing coach at the time that was like helping me through it. And the miracle came about in my life in, well, okay, the miracle technology and the miracle of healing. It was probably 2018. So I was doing candle gazing, transcendental meditation, Qigong every day, yoga every day, all of these things. I mean, getting into binaural beats and listening to particular music that was created to heal. And I literally, I remember a few days before in my kitchen being so frustrated and literally bawling and getting down on my knees and asking God to heal me. I would do anything to heal.
Which is like, that's when I hear these stories of people who say that, just to interject, like this is when you hit full surrender.
Surrender.
When you're just like, I am not in any kind of control. I have nothing I can do. Help me.
Yeah.
And this is usually when the miracle occurs anyway, right?
Yeah. And Metatron had been coming to me. My deceased Aunt Kay had been coming to me. I mean, things were happening, things were working, but I so wanted all of it now,
Yeah.
right? And so Archangel Michael appeared and told me to have patience. And it was a few days later that everything started vibrating. I don't know how else to say it. It almost felt like you were having tremors, but the tremors weren't just associated to your hands or your feet. This was whole body. I
I
literally,
have had that.
yeah. And
It's hard to explain.
oh Lord, it's crazy. And my husband, I called him and I was like, something's happening. Something's happening. I'm really worried here. And I don't know if he was home at the time, but I remember feeling like I needed to go lay down. And so I went upstairs into the bedroom. And right before I was to crawl in bed, it was like a lightning bolt hit. I just felt this shock go from the very top of my head all the way through my body so hard it took me down to my knees.
Wow.
I started getting vision after vision after vision after vision after vision, seeing things in the future, seeing things in the past, seeing things that hadn't happened yet, such as the whole mask debacle, right? Seeing people
Yeah.
storming the White House. Now remember, this is 2018.
Yeah.
I
Oh yeah,
thought
you're way ahead of it.
I thought the world was ending. I was scared. I started sleeping in a walk-in closet with a baseball bat, like just full transparency here. Like it was
Yeah.
fun, right? But I was literally completely healed. I had depth perception suddenly. I was doing handstand, like it was overnight. It was crazy. But then you're also very much in tune with everything. And so a lot of the messages I got were not to be shared with the public quite yet.
Yeah.
But the philosophy for me was then the next few days, I was meant to literally just ground and sit in the grass with nature as much as possible. The connectivity that I had to animals was crazy. Yeah. And that's when I was like, okay, I need to share these gifts with the world because we spent my life savings trying to find these answers, going
Well,
in
trying to heal yourself. I mean, who wouldn't do that,
yeah.
right? Because I mean, it's not ironic, but the last guest I had on my podcast also had Western medicine fail them. I've had Western medicine fail me to where it almost killed me. You know, it's like sometimes we go through these struggles, and this is why I like having guests on, because it's to prove over and over again that we go through these hard times, we go through these challenges, and it's not for nothing. It's
Yes.
fucking hard, and we don't know what the fuck's happening half the time during the process. And then you have these moments of insane clarity and understanding. And you're like, okay, I get it. And then you're like, well, okay, I get it, but now I don't know what to do. Right. And you went
Yes.
from healed to I'm now, that dog over there is having, a little bit of an issue, and I can feel every part of it. And I go to the grocery store and I'm like, that lady's got gas, and then
Right?
that lady's got heartburn, and you're like, God damn, what's happening to me? So you go from one extreme to another, it seems, and then you have to find that balance point of understanding how to manage your energy and your frequencies, so it's like, it's insane, but again, it's all happening for us, and we have to have faith. And sometimes that takes us completely surrendering and just coming to our knees and being like, fuck, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
100%. Yeah. Without that moment, I guarantee, yeah, it would have taken much, much, much longer to get there. And ultimately, the surrender still would have had to be there. But yeah, I was wearing gloves in public, long sleeves. I was covering my head. Like I didn't want to come into physical contact with anyone because the
Yeah.
stories of their life would come through and you
Yeah.
just never know what's around you. And it wasn't like the worst, darkest secret, but a lot of times it was.
Yeah.
Right? I believe that I was a shadow empath. I called myself a shadow dancer for a very long time because you'd still see I call it the Christ consciousness within. You'd still see that person is absolutely perfect, but you'd see where their guilt and their shame lie.
Yeah.
And you're like, but you're still an amazing human and your choices today. Right. So
But that's such a gift though, too, because so many people don't realize that they have this energy repressed in them that is pretty much running the show. And so this is why, like, I'm a big proponent of 90% of healing is awareness, but the
mhm.
other 10% is what you do about it. And so you can learn all day long, you can read all the books, you can take all the courses, but if you don't put that knowledge to use, if you don't go inward and start to feel the sensations in your body, sensations equal information, and you stop, I mean, like, get rid of the labels, get rid of the stories, get rid of the judgment of shame, guilt, whatever, and just feel what's in your body. And so oftentimes it takes people like you and I, or and many of the other beautiful souls out there doing this work to go, let me help you find where this lives in your body. And so you had that, to see that, you have that gift of being like, this is where this lives. Let's get in touch with that shit.
Yeah. Well, and that's how my story with traditional Chinese medicine and Qigong, I really started deep diving in it because I started to notice, yeah, if you touch someone in their kidneys, immediately I would feel the kidney pain in my body.
Yeah.
Right. I would sit next to, even just a year ago, I remember taking someone to the airport. We were sitting at a pizza place and the guy behind me was going through things. We weren't even in physical contact. And I was like, right. And all the past life stories come through. And I'm like, you were thrown off a cliff, buddy. Oh, man. Like, no, fun. And you and I, when we were in one of the Carolinas and going to the bar, right? And that woman's grandmother showed up and like
Oh, yeah.
invited me over to talk with her and be like, your grandma says you looked beautiful today. And little did I know she was wedding dress shopping and her grandma had passed. Right? You get these messages, you get these things, and it's really beautiful. But yeah, getting in tune with the body has to happen. And
Mhm.
so traditional Chinese medicine to me is absolutely amazing because it's looking at the yin and the yang of every organ. And everything needs to balance to, we'll say approximately 8 hertz, right? All humans
Okay.
are a little bit different. So I hate using this model, but every organ has really two frequencies that they're going to carry with us, just like the elemental balances in the body. So the kidneys will house unprocessed fear. Now, if we were to look and actually take emotions and break them down on a frequency scale, such as was done with, I don't even remember the doctor's name, if you know it, but I digress. There's a balance to it on the other side. And for fear,
Yeah.
it's gratitude, right? For sorrow or grief, it's contentment, which is held in the lungs, which goes with the frequency of yellow, right? Kidneys is blue, by the way. The liver processes or holds on to that unprocessed anger. And on the
Yeah.
opposite side of anger, we want happy. And so green can be incorporated in, which is probably why I have so much green around because I do, even to this day, anger is, I'm a magnet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was an anger magnet for a long time, and I didn't know that I was angry. I didn't know that I had
Mhm.
rage suppressed in me. And I had been doing this work for quite a while. And I was like, I had married my third husband who had anger issues. My daughter had massive anger issues. My son had anger issues. And then when I left him and I went through a massive ego death, I found and got in touch with that version of me that was in rage. And it was 3 days of like wanting to kill people, wanting to beat something with a bat and getting in my car and screaming. And I was like, oh my God, I had no idea. And then when I went and did ayahuasca, oh, I found a whole nother level of sacred rage that I did not know, and the collectives, right? So that's a whole nother podcast, but it's like sometimes you just don't know. And so that's the biggest key for me is when I attract people, I'm like, is this an opportunity for boundaries, or is this showing me something about myself that I'm not seeing? Because I don't like, now I'm like super cautious because I've done so much work to get in touch with that anger. But
Right.
man, it's important. It's important. Sorry, went on a tangent, but yeah, the liver, I'm the same way as you. Like, I have my dictionary long before I even knew who Louise Hayes was, but I had tapped into my own dictionary of where energy and emotions were stored. So by the time I found Louise Hay, I was like, she had this Bible of where emotions were stored. And I was like, damn, you're just validating the crap out of me. Like, this is excellent.
I used to sit in my lawn in Washington State, and I would be just in the grass in my little linen outfit because I was in it, right? And I would run my finger over my teeth and feel the entire meridian light up. And I thought I had discovered something fucking amazing, right? And then I started learning. People are like, no, those are meridians. It's traditional Chinese medicine. And I was like, what? People already know this? No one's
Yeah,
talking about
right.
that, right? But yeah, it would be like going through and you just, you feel it all light up. And you're like, this is amazing. So I
We
love
hold a lot of fear in our teeth too, not just in our kidneys.
fun.
Yeah. I'm like, this makes sense why I've lost a lot of my teeth.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, another random tangent, but I know you're going through a parasite cleanse. I just finished one. Clenching your jaw oftentimes is a sign of a parasite. Did you know that?
Oh, no, I did not know that. I know
Yeah.
it's one of tension and stress, but I did not know it was parasite.
Yeah, because those parasites will keep you on a particular frequency, right?
Yeah.
Which is usually this fear or this anxiety, and then we have that tendency of really kind of
Yeah.
clutching right there.
Well, that's good to know. I did not know that. And I mean, I lived for a long time in an activated, not an activated, well, it was activated, but a functional freeze state. So I legit held tension in my body where I would be sitting in bed at night with my husband, you know, we're an hour or two before going to bed and we'd put on a show or something. There's nothing going on. We're totally relaxed, just chilling. I started to recognize that my body was bracing for impact because literally that's how I had operated most of my life, unless I was drinking or doing something to, you know, get out of it in a non-healthy way. And I was like, oh my God. It took me hitting burnout and stage 3 adrenal fatigue to start to heal that. But I had to realize that I had to be so conscious of my body from my jaw all the way down to my toes would literally be in a brace for impact tense state. And that is really hard on your body. Really, really hard.
Forever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's way better now, but every now and then I will still catch myself and I'll be like, oh my God, I'm bracing for impact again. And so it's like, it takes forever to reprogram yourself and unlearn all of those unhealthy behaviors.
Well, and the fascia that holds the story in, right?
Right.
So one thing I really cover with my clients is this idea of fuck your story, focus on the future.
Mm.
We're going to get this out of the body, but you can't keep fucking telling the same goddamn story over and over
Yes.
because these neural networks are just going to strengthen and you're really re-downloading this program. So fucking stop. Right?
Yeah.
Asha is so amazing. So going into Love Your Brain Yoga was a 501c3 nonprofit. And the first time I felt seen post accident, it was 3 to 4 months in. Right? I
Wow.
was scared shitless to leave the house. I mean, we're talking lack of depth perception and everything else. I was scared to walk.
I was gonna say, how do you even walk when you don't know? Because
Yeah.
depth perception, shit, you'd probably be falling down all the time.
Yeah. And then you have this sensory reset. So suddenly you're not used to all these artificial fragrances and all this bullshit. And you're seeing the lights in the grocery store. You're seeing the lights, what is it called? Oh my Lord.
The fluorescent lights?
Yeah. You're seeing the waves come off these.
Oh, yeah.
Now you're seeing
Yeah.
them reflect off of the floor. It's
Mhm.
neurodivergence on steroids. Like leaving the house was so scary. So I found this program, total blessing. And they created a gentle yoga class specifically for traumatic brain injury survivors.
Wow.
And all I could do was lay on the mat and cry. But it was the first time I felt seen and understood in 4 months.
And probably
Because
safe to lay on the floor and cry.
right? Yeah, but that's when I started working with fascia as well and learning more about yin yoga and all these things. I know I'm going off on a million tangents.
No.
But yeah, it's absolutely stunning when we learn that. So the first time I went into the chiropractor to work on the fascia, he told me, I never heard of the word fascia. He's like, so you have a spider web that's holding everything together right now. And I'm going to wipe out that spider web. And I'll tell you, you're going to be in some feelings. And
Yeah,
I
you
was
have
like,
an emotional
"Oh,
release.
holy hell oh my Lord. Oh, I just bawling, right? And it's not because, yeah, there was pain. There was absolutely pain. I was in pain every day, but
Yeah.
this was different. This was this deep rooted primal vomit that was coming. I mean, it wasn't vomit, but emotional vomit. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Wow.
love fascia releases. When I found fascia release, it was like a game changer because of just how long I had suppressed so much trauma. And I had major emotional releases. And then I went to one woman, and this woman brought out the fascia blaster, and she went to town on my upper arms, but she didn't do it gently. She didn't do it intentionally. And so afterwards, I don't remember what was happening, but we needed a rental car for some reason. So my husband picked me up. We went across the street to the rental car, and I had a tank top on. And he
No.
looks at my arms and he goes, they were instantly bruising, Kristine, like instantly swelling and bruising.
Oh
And
yeah.
he's like, what happened to you? I thought you went for a massage. And I'm like, I went for a fascia release, and she used this tool, and I never had the tool. And so anyway, the next day, you might have thought someone had died. I was a
Right.
fucking emotional wreck. I was bawling and screaming and losing my shit. And I was like, I don't know what she did to me. It was so
Right.
bad. So, be gentle. It's
Very
like
gentle. Yeah.
when you do that, and I have fascia blasters, and I'll do it in the sauna, but I'm never like, get out of me, because it's just re-traumatizing you.
It truly is. Yeah.
Yeah. So when did you get introduced to like the miracle and that type of frequency technology, and what change did it have from the healing that you had already done? Like, what was the biggest
Oh,
shift that you saw?
excellent question. So I went down to I call it a quantum conference in Miami, and I happened to get there a day early. This was just on a whim. I had gone through this miraculous healing. I went to a few friends that were healers, and it kind of explained everything I was seeing, everything I was hearing, everything I was going through, which is enough to fill like 2 novels, right? Um, and they said, you need to start following this particular leader. This particular leader. I don't even like that term. This particular teacher,
Yeah.
that she happened to be having an event. So I didn't know what I was doing, just started listening to her stuff. My amazing, again, ex-husband at the time was like, put it all on a credit card, right? You're going to go, you're going to stay in the nicest hotel. That was like the second time I'd flown since, because again, flying was very overwhelming. And everything worked out. Spirit aligns things. So I get there a day early. I'm invited out to a dinner with everyone that's putting on the conference. And I end up sitting next to Helena, one of the creators of the Miracle IQ. And I am telling you, I didn't even come into physical contact with this woman yet. And as soon as I sat down, I was getting these Atlantean memories, right? I was in this beautiful white, and I'll call it a cathedral, but it wasn't a cathedral because there were pools everywhere. And there were these beautiful trees, fruit trees with birds and everything. And people were sitting in these waters, were receiving these frequencies to heal.
And on a side note, if you've ever had your flashbacks from your Atlantean life, you already know what she's saying, because it literally, you know it, you've been there.
Yeah. And she was there. And I turned to her and she says, hi, I'm Helena. I'm the creator of the Miracle IQ. And immediately I start seeing images of this product that I've never fucking come into contact with. And I knew it didn't matter what it took. I needed this. This was an important key to me in this lifetime.
Yeah.
So I started talking with her. I started talking with her assistant, Ian, and I was just all in on this machine. So I think it was the next day or 2 days later. No, the next day we did like a group event with it. And I got so sick. These frequencies were so intense. My body had to purge. I'll call it an entity. Right.
Yeah.
And
Old
it
version
was,
of you.
yeah. And so Ian sat down with me, the same little machine that I gave you, he put with me and put it on a particular healing frequency. So there's all these different playlists and sounds that come through that are going to work and bring the body back into harmony. So that's what he was doing, was he was acclimating me with a tinier machine with a lower punch, if you will, to go into it. And then the next day I was okay. And then the next day I got to go in and actually do a voice analysis program. And when I did the voice analysis program, you put on these headphones and try to give you the shortest version possible. You record a voice sample, and the voice is as unique as a fingerprint. It's absolutely phenomenal what it carries. Now, there's a recent study that shows in men, they're carrying approximately 10 generations of bullshit and trauma with them, right? It's all recorded in the voice. So for me, when I went through my car accident, my voice changed dramatically. Right. And you're going, well, yeah, your cervical spine was knocked backwards, Kristine. I'm sure it did some impact on your vocal cords. Absolutely. Right. But we know with thyroid and everything else too, in a stressed out body, you're hearing it in the voice. So we're doing a 30-second sample. And now it's broken down to 1.3 billion bits of information, and a customized binaural beats program is coming out. So 22 minutes. But putting these headphones on, this binaural beats tripled. So there's actually 3 tones in each ear. And to me, again, traditional Chinese medicine, I'm going into the dantians. And if you're in the chakra system, what we're really doing is we're looking at the third eye, we're looking at the heart, and then I'm going to say we're looking at, I kind of go back and forth, but I'm going to say it's the solar plexus, right? This area of empowerment.
Yeah.
Probably more the sacral, but I kind of combine them together. And it's rebalancing everything. So it felt like, and the only way I can explain it is a psychic car wash. It felt like these tiny little brushes were
I
actually
love that psychic car wash.
Oh, it was the most relaxing thing. And I was like, this is amazing, right? At the time, the machine, I think, was $12,000 or something like that. So again, calling the husband, thank goodness for this amazing man. I need this. And he's like, all right, we're going to make it happen, right? He's like, sit on it, think on it, let's do this. And then you get, after a session, you got an MP3. So you're not going with the scalar technology and everything else that you get in person. But now I got to continually do this. So I would be at home in the hot tub listening to it and just feeling that feeling again and again and again. I was like, I absolutely need this. So that's how I was introduced to it. And I think I had the machine like a month later. I was all in. I wanted to learn everything about it. You started going into a meditative state. I started getting very clearly what I was meant to do. And I am telling you, my short-term memory improved. My cognitive speed increased, and my psychic abilities became clearer and clearer.
So were those the 3 major things that improved the most from what you had already been doing to heal your brain?
Good question. I feel like my vocabulary increased, information retainment increased as well.
I mean, having an increase in memory alone, I mean, it makes me wonder if it would help Alzheimer's patients, you know?
I would love to experiment with that.
I know. I feel like there's so much untapped research with a lot of this stuff. And I know spiritual teachers, leaders, whatever you want to call them, way showers is what I call them, that have one in particular, Jason Estes, like he's already developed med beds. You know, there's other med beds already available.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things that are out there that I feel that can help heal and regenerate organs and heal the brain and do all of these things. And it kind of pisses me off that this has not been put more mainstream sooner, because all of these people who are suffering from these diseases, I feel, that are put on medications and pharmaceuticals, because we all know that's a money machine. They could be, who knows, they could be healed. They could be way better than they are right now. And so it just makes me wonder about these things, you know?
Yeah. I mean, based on resonance, what we're doing is we're going in and we're manipulating molecules with a particular frequency, right? And so there still is a particular soundtrack that was meant to reduce the life of COVID and its listeners. And this is based on, I want to say it was back in the 60s. It might have even been earlier. They realized there was a particular disease that they could put this frequency on and it would just implode from the center.
That's amazing.
Right. And so we know that all of these things can do this. And so I do believe, now I haven't dove into the research around Alzheimer, but yeah, there's a particular chemical component or something in the brain that starts to like triple or quadruple. And of course it just continues and continues and continues.
Takes over.
This could potentially, I would absolutely be open to experimentation with that.
Well, I mean, think about it. If someone was in the beginning stages of it, and if we could at least slow it down or stop it, you know, from multiplying like a cancer, you know, or a virus, because I think that's what most everything is a virus. And when I say virus, it is a frequency that is just rampaging the body and taking over. And so like having those kind of devices available in healing centers, or for people who can afford to buy them, purchase them, or go to practitioners that have it, would be a game changer. So for me, when I do frequency work, I do it all energetically. I work with ray technologies that I've learned to channel. And I've done this with DNA activation and restructuring. And I've had people come to me to book a session for DNA work. And I did not know that they had diseases or chronic health problems that doctors have not been able to fix until after I give them the audio and, you know, we review the healing, and I will have people come back to me weeks, sometimes months later, and be like, it's gone, it's healed, it's completely healed. And like when that started happening, it just reinforced my belief in channeling these frequencies and technologies. And my guides have always told me that your voice is the most healing frequency there is, because it's your frequency, right? So I know my frequency is a 741. And so it's very purifying. And so when I did my 40 days, I recorded my own track, and I laid my own frequency music on there, right? So not everybody can do that or has the ability to do that or knows how, but that's one way of doing it. And going to someone who's channeling energy is another. What would be the biggest difference for using a machine versus doing something like that? And can you help us understand what scalar technology means?
Absolutely. Kind of. I'm going to give the very response, right? So anyone in the military is probably familiar with scalar technology, and kind of going back to why isn't this all readily available for everyone? Because again, we don't want this technology to get into the wrong hands. That
Oh,
sounds
that's a good point.
daunting and very doom and gloom, but it's dead serious. So this technology was something that they were told to put a cap on, right?
Well, if you think about like
Hold it back, hold it
the
back.
fall of Atlantis, that was because we got power hungry with our technology, you know? So
Absolutely. Yeah. And if we really start talking about energy and frequency and everything and how it's all disrupting us and how disconnected we are from the earth and how we're that only species that really chooses to disconnect from the healing frequency of the earth, right?
yeah.
Completely crazy. I mean, I love this technology. I think it's a game changer, especially for anyone that wants to live in the third dimensional world. But do I believe we can go out in the woods and run barefoot and sleep on the ground and rock our world? Yeah, absolutely. Right. So all of it's free, which is really funny. But okay, I went off on too many tangents. Scalar technology
This
is
is what we can do.
right. So if anyone really is heavily into energy work and the idea of our thoughts, right? Well, I'm going to go off on a little bit of a mindset piece really quick, right? So 90 to 97% of our thoughts, depending on the research, they're created by the subconscious, unconscious mind. The average human being has approximately 70,000 thoughts on any given day. Now that's an average person. Your listeners are going to be a little bit higher than that, right?
Yeah.
A lot of my clients are neurodivergent. When you're neurodivergent, I'm going to say triple that, right? Me too. Yeah. So when we're these highly sensitive individuals, we're taking in so much more information. And these thoughts create our cells. Every day, our cells are regenerating. So it's what we're thinking and what we're unconsciously thinking that creates aging, that creates cancer, that creates all of this, right? I truly believe that when it comes to cancer and everything else, this is a resentment story that we're holding in the body.
Yes.
And we
Agreed.
are doing this, right? People tell me to fuck off when I say that sometimes. I'm like, you're not my client, bye-bye, right? You got to be ready to hear that.
Yeah.
So what this machine is doing is this machine, scalar technology, goes to the bone level. And
Okay.
bone is when something is so solid in your belief system
Yes.
that
It's
it's
your
there.
structure. It's your main programs. I call it your mainframe.
Yeah. So scalar technology can go through concrete walls. The scalar technology for what I have in my own home, it actually goes out approximately 25 miles. So if I'm playing the, raise your frequency, right, soundtrack, everyone within a 25-mile radius will be impacted, whether they realize it or not, right?
Yeah.
They may have one more happy thought. Hopefully that's only 1 out of 70,000, which is why we can't just have mindset work. There has to be some mysticism and other technologies that are there, right? But scalar technology is absolutely amazing because we're not just going in, this isn't a sound bath. And sound baths are amazing and Western medicine is amazing, like not to speak poorly of absolutely anything, but
I think everything has its place.
yeah, this is a game changer. So it's going in and it's also impacting us on a liquid level. And we all know as human beings, we're highly liquid, right? So if we look at the work of Dr. Masaru Emoto, for anyone that's not familiar, it's the structure of water.
Love that work.
Oh my goodness. So he took water and he spoke messages into it. I love you. I hate you. And froze it and then looked at the molecules and the structure of it. And it's absolutely amazing what happens. So what this machine is doing is it's working on that level. It's working on just the sound level. It's working all the way down to the bone.
Yeah.
And it can just have these amazing things. Now, for those that kind of understand what we're doing and the fact that all dimensions are existing within one time frame, which is only this present moment, there is no past, there is no future, there's only now. This is also easily aligning you with the proper dimension for your desired end result, right? This is a fucking time machine.
It is. So the difference between like going to somebody who's channeling the energy and this machine, you think that this machine, I mean, it sounds like this machine penetrates deeper because humans, like we're all, we're all channeling that energy through our own filters anyway, right? And each of us have our own level of power or space that we can hold, the amount of frequency we can hold and bring through at any time, right? And that took me, I did this for so long before I could hold certain bandwidths and certain
Yeah.
frequencies. And the people who have been followers of me for a long time, you'll know this because I used to put out transmissions and I would get messages from people and they'd say, I fall asleep during your transmission. And I'd say the reason why that is because you can't hold that frequency bandwidth. And so it knocks you out and you're still getting everything. And I said, you'll really know if you can sustain and embody that frequency when you don't fall asleep anymore. When I had that problem happening, that's when my guides told me that. And I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. So now I know that when I have a hard time staying awake when I'm going through a frequency, or, there's frequencies coming in on the planet, or I'm at an event, it's a new bandwidth that I'm not able to hold yet. And so I'm like, oh, cool. I want to keep doing it and increase, my ability. So it sounds like this machine kind of takes off that heavy lifting and really just penetrates as far as as deep as it possibly can go.
Absolutely, it does. And then utilizing your voice and creating affirmations through the program, this is where you really want to work with someone that knows what they're doing, right?
Because
Anyone,
it is using your voice, right?
100%.
Okay. Which
You
is
are
what we
creating.
need to do.
Exactly. We're usually doing a bass sample, which you and I have done
Yeah.
together.
I'm actually currently listening to one she created for me. And I'll tell you, the first day I listened to it. So it is, if you've ever been in like an MRI machine, that's what it reminded me of. They make these weird tones. I think it's an MRI machine. And the first day I listened to it, I was so fucking irritated. I was like, I don't know how, it was like 24 minutes. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to do this every day. I'm going to go insane. And I'm super clairaudient. And so sound alone can set me off. And so I was terrible. But then Tuesday I listened to it and I was like, oh, and it is kind of like a psychic or car wash. It was like, it just soothed everything. And so now I just decided to make it my morning meditation for a while. And I am like, this is so awesome. I don't even notice the tones anymore. I just literally puts me in this like neutral baseline. I can't describe it any other way. It's like, it's just peace.
Yeah. It's like working with 70,000 of one of us, right? All stuffed into
That's
a
a
room.
great analogy.
Yeah. It's insane what it can hold. And it's so beautiful. But yeah, we do that. And then we usually do an affirmation. And no, most of us are really in the third dimension. We're very much in our ego when it comes to affirmations. I will tell you, this is like, all those stories of you have three wishes with the genie and we all make dumb wishes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Careful what you wish for. This
Yes.
machine is the same thing. When we're creating an affirmation, we really have to think about it from our highest self perspective and utilize things like with grace and ease, because this will, and I tell people this, I've told people this at trade shows and different things. I'm like, are you ready to literally let go of anything and everything that's truly in the way of you achieving this? Right? Because it will rip your reality apart.
Yeah.
And not in a gentle way. This is why we always say with grace and ease, and really consider what you want and how far you want to go with it.
And so that's a good point, adding with grace and ease to the affirmation.
100%.
So that's something that I have never done. And if I do another 40 days in the future where I rewire my brain, I would add that in, though. I went through a huge ego death. My listeners have already heard all the stories about it, but I'm the same way, even with just private mentorship. I tell people, if you come to me with the intention of healing, and this is for all of us, right? We set an intention to heal something. You better be ready, because the universe is going to be like,
Mhm.
okay. And it's going to start bringing everything in front of you and saying, okay, what are you going to do just differently this time? What are you going to do differently this time? And that's the integration process, is releasing that judgment and going, oh, okay, this isn't right or wrong, what I'm feeling or experiencing. I'm going to do this instead. For a good 40 years of my life, probably, more like 35, I was running programs that were installed through trauma and abuse and God knows what else. You're not going to shift that shit overnight, dude. Like, it takes consistent repetition. And this is the work. This is the work. I don't know if it was you who I was talking to about this or someone else, but it's like a 40-hour full-time job to do this work. And I tell people, like, people look at me and I'm like, I know now why people won't do this. Like, I look at my ex-husband, I know why he won't do this work, because it's a lot of work, dude. I'm like, who's paying me for this?
Right? Yeah.
But that's crazy. So my next question is going to be, um, people who have things like MS, ALS, these really limiting things. I even saw, what's her name? Celine Dion has stone woman syndrome or something, or stiff person syndrome. I didn't even know that was a thing. These types of things that are highly affect our mobility, that are pretty much disease in the bone. Is there any evidence or any work that's been shown that improves, like using that kind of technology improves their condition that you know of?
With those particular diseases, I don't know. I would have to dig into the research and get back
Yeah.
to you on that, right? I do believe that many of us, and this is going to be so polarizing, right? We choose all of this before we come down,
Yes. Yes.
right? And so sometimes we do actually manifest, and I know it sounds horrible, but we manifest these different things happening in order for us to really be forced to look in the mirror and change,
Yeah.
and to be an example for our family, our friends, and everyone in our circle of just reminding them to live life to its fullest and
Yeah.
prioritize things. So I don't know on that particular one. I only know my story. I know the
Yeah.
story of the clients that I work with around it. I know that I have seen tumors shrink with it. Um,
Okay.
but with those, it's one of those where anyone that's interested in this, if you're like, I hate to say the word desperate, but if you're desperate, take the time to book a session with everything. Go do a session with a Rife machine. Wait a
Mm-hmm.
week, do a session with me around the miracle. Wait a week, try something else, but give it a week, give it time to settle in the body and see how you feel, and document and journal what's happening around you.
That's such good
This
advice.
all is internal. And a lot of times there's going to be a shitstorm that's going to happen. Every
Mm-hmm.
time we go into a quote unquote healing crisis, right? These beliefs need to be addressed. How we choose to use our reticular activating system and look out at the world needs to shift, or none of it's going to be there. And that's my
Yeah.
biggest pet peeve with anyone that calls himself an energy healer. And yes, I do call myself an energy healer, is I don't want to be the magic pill that you take every time your life goes to shit. Change your fucking life,
Exactly.
right? Take some responsibility, show up different, and go in the direction that you want. But
I've
don't,
turned clients away for that who continually come
amen.
back, because I'll be like, no, like and I always say this because people think that energy healers or machines or all of these things is the miracle. And while it can be a contributing factor to the miracle, you have to understand, when as an energy healer, all we're doing is guiding our energy, is guiding your energy. At the end of the day, you're the one who's actually doing the work. We're
100%.
facilitating that energy movement. But if you're not open, if you're not willing, if there's resistance, your energy, it's not going to work. Your energy is the one that's actually doing the work. And so people who would continuously come back, I would be like, after a while, I'd be like, no, like, you know what to do now. Like,
Yeah.
I can't do this. And I've even had people who have gone through like 3 or 4 levels of like rounds of private mentorship with me, which is 6 months. And usually after the third one, usually 3 is my cutoff, right? Unless the fourth one is for something completely different, like developing a
Mhm.
spiritual gift or something. But it's like, you have to, and we need more practitioners that will cut people off and be like, no, you have to do the work. Like, we're not here to, we're not Messiah. We're not here to, do that. We're here to show you that you are
Yeah.
the power.
We're just sexy crystals in
Yes. Oh, I
human
love
form.
that.
You just hold on to our hand and boom. Yeah.
That's my new hinge handle, sexy crystal. So, have you used any other machine besides the Miracle?
I've used quite a few.
Okay.
So what it's
Any
called, I don't remember. Trying to think back. Um,
So you didn't have a good experience with the Healy. So we'll talk about the Healy, just because
yeah.
I have the Healy. I was someone who bought it, and I have had good experiences with it. But here's what I will tell you is it's like it just, for me, it is an assistant to help me when my energy is not at full capacity to heal myself. And so for me, it's just like it's helping me lift the weight a little bit, and it assists, and it kind of gives me that pickup, especially like if I'm traveling or things like that. It's great. Um, is it something that was completely life altering and changing? No.
Yeah.
But it did help, and for the price, it was okay, but if it was like if that thing was like $3,000, there's no way I would
Right.
have done it. So my only experience has been with the Healy and then with the machine that you put me on when we were in Florida. And then of course using the track that you're having me do right now. And so I had a good experience. Like I shifted and felt better the next day after you put that on me.
And see, that's only the travel one. That's just the own pocket.
Yeah.
When we get into the Miracle or the Tesla, like this is like the big guns,
Big Daddy.
right? Yeah. But even doing like PEMF, that can be helpful. And that's widely acceptable. You can
What
go,
is that?
it's something that most chiropractors, at least around my area, will have PEMF. There's even entire
I've
locations
never.
dedicated pulse magnetic therapy machine.
Oh, okay. Okay. Those are the little tab things they stick on you like you're getting.
No, so this is actually one where it's this machine. They'll have you kind of lay down on the bed, they'll put towels over you, and then this machine's there, and it feels like a hammer that's kind of going off, going off, going off. And what it's doing is it's going through all the layers of skin, all the layers of muscle, and it's also in the fascia, and it's releasing this trauma within, right? So a
I
lot of
have been doing chiropractor work for ever because I have major back issues and I have never found one that had that. That I feel a little gypped right now.
ask, yeah, pulsed electromagnetic fields is what this is. And just for everyone listening, I live very close to Scottsdale, Arizona. So it is a beautiful area that really
The
does
healing
embrace
mecca.
the woo-woo, right? So there is actually a Scottsdale Scalar Healing Center.
Oh,
You
really?
can go in and you can try these different beds and everything. So come on vacation, enjoy the desert, enjoy the sunshine, grab a drink, enjoy the pool, and go to places like this where you get to try all of these different technologies and
Yeah.
see what resonates with you. Because if we look at it like, yeah, that's a tangent for another time, but depending on your blood type, depending on your lineage, different technologies are going to work best for you. But if you have those Atlantean, those Lemurian memories, I'm going to say that I'd already be like, yeah, you definitely want to check out the Miracle. So,
Yeah.
but
And
yeah,
I like that you telling people to try it. I mean, I would even go like I would try something and try it like one or two times in a month and give yourself that whole month to just because like you said, it's going to activate a shitstorm. It's going to set everything free. And then you have to look at that, right? You have to process and digest that. We have an emotional digestion cycle, which people forget about. You got to go through all these phases and then you'll notice if you feel good, but you have to go through that. And then once that month is done, like she said, document it, go find another machine and try that. And I know that takes forever, but it's better to do it the right way instead of just putting all your eggs in one basket and, taking a risk and it not being, especially with the price of these, it's not being what you need.
mhm.
Um, is it easily available for people to buy them?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe I am a licensed dealer, and I say I believe because there's been some changes. Um, but yeah, if they were interested in the Own Pocket or the Miracle, you can definitely reach out to me and I
Yeah.
can talk them through it.
The
And
frequency dealer.
yes, frequency dealer. Right. And I was supposed to do the same with Healy. I was supposed to do the same with one other machine as well. But for me, I never want to give too many options. And I want to do what I 100% believe in. And that's not to say the Healy really is an incredible technology as well. Right.
I mean, it's worked for some people. We know those people scream it to the rooftops.
Yeah. Others, it's you can get these tiny machines that are completely affordable that are vagus nerve stimulators. You
Okay.
just kind of stick it back here, right? And for anxiety and everything else. But for me, the Own Pocket, I am talking when I was afraid to leave the house and I got that little Own Pocket and I could put it on this protective energy and it creates a little 8-foot bubble around you. You don't see it or anything. Some
Yeah.
people, right? But my body relaxed, everything relaxed. And it was like having that safety blanket that
Yeah.
allowed me to start living my life again. So that was kind of a tangent though. But
That's
when
okay.
yeah, Rife machines are amazing. The mats are amazing. What are the mats called? The giant yellow ones that just do the da, 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 da. Very
I don't
scientific
know.
terminology here.
Another question. I know this is a little bit longer podcast and we're going to wrap up in a second, but I have been really drawn to the grounding mats that you can actually sleep on. Do you know anything about those?
Stop. There's one in my mailbox right now.
Oh my God, shut up. Really?
Yeah, it was a Valentine's Day gift from someone. I mentioned that I've been having a little bit of difficulty sleeping because with the cleanse, as you know, when it comes to the liver and everything else, it can keep you up late at night.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've actually had an earthing mat for quite a long time. It's just one that you keep under, say, your keyboard or at your feet when you're working. And
Okay.
it's been a game changer as well, right? And so,
Will you
especially for
send
those,
me a link to your earthing mats?
absolutely, I'd be
Okay.
happy to. Yeah.
And
And
then,
this
because
is,
I want to try that out, but I'm going to be so interested to hear your experience. So you got the one that you sleep on in the
I got
mailbox.
the full king size bed one.
Oh,
I am so freaking excited to put it down. And I know my kitty Gucci is going to love it. She's going to be all over it because every day we take a little bit of time and we go out in the backyard and that girl will just roll around in the rock and the dust, right? She's like,
oh,
she's ready to earth. She's ready to connect. So yeah,
oh
but
my gosh.
gladly send you the link. It's the one I believe that I know Sports Illustrated, I don't really read it a lot, but Sports Illustrated called it the #1 earthing mat that's out there.
Okay.
And
That's
so I'm
weird.
like,
You wouldn't think of Sports Illustrated putting something like that out there, but you know what? We're evolving, so everything's
right?
changing.
Well, that's the beauty of it is that,
I
yeah,
know.
athletes, they all know this. You talk to the average person who, have you ever used Arnica? They're like, what? Talk to an NFL player, they're like, hell yeah, I use Arnica all the time.
Yeah, what's the thing too that you wear that I think for meditation? I think a lot of sports people do that. Do you remember? Jess used to have it or talk
Um,
about it.
that I can't think of what that one's called. I wasn't impressed with that one either.
But there's so many different things out there, and
Oh,
it's just
funny.
so I love that you brought that up because people think that this stuff is all woo and it's nonsense, and then you find out that like these pro athletes that have to keep themselves in the best shape of their lives, so their fucking paycheck depends upon it, and
Right?
they're doing all of these things. They may not be shouting it to the rooftops, but they're doing it, and so it's not nonsense. There is so much evidence to back up that this works. I mean, my own voice healing that I did over the last 40 days changed my life. I'm so excited to see what your frequency tones are going to that we did together are going to do, because it's already been a game changer just in my meditation. I'm only doing it once a day. I think you had originally said do it twice,
Practice is
but
twice.
I
Yeah.
hadn't felt called to do that yet. I'm sure I will get there, but so I'm excited to just see, but I'm a firm believer in frequency and your ability to heal yourself. And I know that these technologies can only amplify that. They can only help and assist and make it so much better, because again, we can only we're human. We are so limited in this physical vessel. So we can only do so much. And the technology and the channeling that I've done, the technology they say is available already on the planet. I know it's being used by the military. I know that there's things that are being used that we don't know anything about. And she's right. There's a lot of people out there would probably do really bad things with that. So there has to be some type of governance. But I do believe in the next 10 to 20 years, med beds will be readily available. These technologies will be more readily available, and people will be regenerating organs. They will be doing more of that miracle type healing. We have to there has to be a little bit of a reset, which is kind of what we're going through right now before we can kind of bring that technology out into the world.
Yeah. Remove the distraction, remove the conditioning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fear and all that stuff. So we're going to wrap this up. What I would like to say is I know that people are going to be interested on how they can get their own, you know, voice analysis and their own tones to do that little car wash of the brain. And, I just love that so much, the little psychic car wash. So if someone was to come to you, what would that look like?
Ooh, good question. Depend. Tell me up front, hey, I want to try out this machine. I want to go through the voice analysis program. Okay. That'll make a big difference. Usually I do a 45-minute, $45 30-minute intro. And that's when I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. You send all of it over. I'll send you the tones. If you need additional support around that, that's when we can talk about what those packages look like. But
Yeah.
if it's just to try it out, what I'll do is send you well, depending on what you want, sometimes it's just going to be one, right? We're just going to do the voice analysis so you can see what it feels like. We're not ready to go into an affirmation and rip your world apart. A-okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Still going to send you best practices, and I'm here to answer any questions, right?
But if they want to do an affirmation track, that would obviously be more. Yes.
That would be a little bit different.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. because that I want to sit down with you. I want to get ego out of the way. I want to listen to your higher self. I want to allow my clairaudience to come through and
Yeah.
hear what you truly are desiring as the end result so that we can create an amazing affirmation for you. You're going to record it, send it over to me. Same thing. I'll process it through, and then you'll have 2 tracks to listen to. Best
Yeah.
practice is twice a day, but there's still great benefit of going through it. So
Yeah.
even
So, I mean, you don't want to send her and be like, the affirmation is I want Joe to come back to me. Like, that's not what we're doing here. Like,
oh, please don't do
we
that.
need to get like, I like that she says that we're going to remove the ego and get clear, because what you think you want and what you probably need and what that affirmation would actually look like this is where the professionals come in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't sugarcoat. If someone says, I want Joe back, I'm like, literally, why don't you love yourself enough to let that happen?
Exactly.
Right. Like, is Joe really the one? Have you written down the 100 characteristics that you're looking for? And does he check off all boxes? If he doesn't,
Yeah.
tell Joe to fuck off and let's work on you. Right.
Exactly.
So
Well, tell people what is your handles where people can find you on social?
absolutely. Mystical Mindset Coach on TikTok. You can go to ekalchemy.com. That's my website. It's not very shiny, but you can get into connection with me there. On Instagram, I believe I am. I should know all of these. Shame on me. I
Well,
believe.
we'll have it all linked anyway, but just
Good.
for some people who don't go to that depth of description, if they hear it, they'll, run over to Instagram and search it.
Absolutely. I can tell you my personal on Instagram is just Kristine with the curls. Or you can go to, it's actually, I think it's written out, Earth's with an S, Kiss Alchemy.
Okay,
And you
perfect.
can find me there.
So
So
I'm going to have all her information in the description of the podcast below. If you do have an interest in healing with frequency and having her do a voice analysis, I mean, that's a killer deal for just to try it out. And, if you want to go further than that. So if that's something that sparked you, because I feel like if I was listening to this, it would have been like, ooh, I'm kind of interested in that. You can reach out to her and you guys can do your thing. But I am just so grateful that you came on, and we could probably talk for another 2 hours. There's so many things on, but the main part was just, your story and how this beautiful technology helped you heal. And so I'm just so grateful that you were here.
Well, thank you so much for this space. It's always good to see your face.
Yay. All right, you guys, I will see you on the next episode.
Hey, thanks for listening. This episode was brought to you by JohannaBurkhardt.com, where it's time to defy the limits of your mind and step into your multidimensional mastery. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. See you next time.